Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie, and guys, we are on episode 83, 84? That is just such a crazy number. I almost can't believe it, but honestly, it does make sense because of the amount of content we have been able to talk about on this podcast. That of course, it has to be like over 80 episodes. We have just talked about marketing strategies, content creation, guerrilla marketing, email marketing, influencer marketing, pretty much just everything under the sun. And I love it so much. I hope it's helping you so much with your marketing strategies. And honestly, something that would help us in creating the podcast going forward would really just be for us to learn how it's helping you and how we can do better. And the absolute number one best way to do that is for us and you to all start communicating together. So please reach out with that olive branch and write a review down below, or you can go ahead and review us on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. YouTube, we do get some comments on YouTube, and I absolutely love them. Shout out to Jackie McNulty, who comments on almost every single podcast episode. It is so great getting to hear how much you're learning from the podcast, and gosh, we just would really love to hear from you guys. So please do not be a stranger. Please feel free to reach out and let us know your thoughts on the podcast. On today's episode, I've been thinking a lot about how I can help you guys with content creation, because I feel as though that is one of the most daunting parts in marketing. It is so easy to come up with these amazing advertising strategies or campaign ideas, but then when you're a team of one, or even if you're a team of 3 people, or you're working alone in quarantine right now, it can be so hard to try to find a way to execute those ideas. You could say, oh, I want to do a beautiful photo collage, and I want the photos to be all different kinds of blues, but also be vibrant and colorful, and not to just to be boring and gray, but I have no idea how to edit photos or take a photo or even make a collage. Well, I am here to tell you that I am going to help you. I believe there are top 3 skills in the content creation world that if you can improve on those, your content is going to be 20 times better, like guaranteed, hands down. So there are 3 huge skills that if you just work on them, you narrow down and you work on those, you're going to be able to produce that type of content you actually want to produce. So those 3 skills are writing, photography, and graphic design. Now, the reason that I picked those 3 skills is because those 3 skills are also skills in which you can usually hire a separate professional to do it for. However, because of the current world, the current climate, and our current situations, it is very hard to hire people. So we kind of need to depend on ourselves and our own skills. Now, I have done podcast episodes in the past about a lot of these in a lot of different ways. But what I want to talk about on today's episode is how I can get you to be a better writer, a better photographer, and a better graphic designer, even if you have no skills in any of those areas whatsoever. Those 3 things, if you work on them, you practice at them, and you improve on them, they can really, really help your overall marketing content. So get that pen and paper out, because we are going to be jumping right in. I'm just going to grab some water first, drinking it out of the martini glass again. just trying to, make quarantine a little bit more fun, a little bit more exciting. I wonder if you have been doing the same as well. Maybe we'll make that the question of today's podcast. How have you been making quarantine more exciting for you? If you have an answer, please write it in the review down below or take me a photo of it on Instagram. All right, guys, let's jump in with skill number 1, which is writing. Your writing skills it is number 1 for a reason on this list because it is so incredibly important for you to have strong writing skills if you are doing your own content creation. Because even if you are posting on Instagram, even if you are doing a video, even if you are doing a vlog, writing can help be a strong platform for all of those campaign ideas because, yes, a photo says 1,000 words, but that caption, that wording, the script you write for the video can be a strong spine for the photo of 1,000 words. It can be the first word for the thousands of words a photo can tell. And that first word is often the most important. It could be the thing that stops somebody in their tracks and makes them look at your photo. It could be the thing that they look at the photo and then they read the caption on Instagram for context. Or bringing it back to the video idea, that if you're writing a script for a video, it is so much easier. Guys, I make videos. You can go follow me on YouTube, Mackenzie Jaquish, Mackenzie Jaquish, and you'll watch my videos, and I guarantee you will be able to tell which ones I wrote a script for and which ones I didn't, because writing a script for a video really does just elevate it. It gives it a structure and a form of being a little bit more professional. And you, if you have to be in the video, you are going to feel more confident knowing that you know where your next word is coming. For those of you that are wondering, you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I wonder if she writes a script. Absolutely I do. It's not word for word. I just took a break to drink out of my martini water glass. That was not scripted. But everything else, all of the research I do, all of the ideas I share with you, they are sitting on a piece of paper in front of me right now. You can hear it. Because it's so important to have a script. It is incredibly important for you to know where you're going to go with the story and how the story unfolds. So there are 3 ways for you to improve your writing skills. And number 1 is courses. Now, do not be afraid. I know you probably just heard cha-ching go through your mind of, all right, I can't really afford to go back to school to get an English degree or a journalism degree. And of course not. I'm not expecting you to do that. There are hundreds and thousands of free courses online that you can take that will help you become a better writer. Look for keywords such as copywriting courses, SEO writing courses, or anything to do with microblogging or just even blogging courses. Guys, they're 1 hour, like at most 1 hour. They will send you a link to a YouTube video. They will watch it, and at the end, they will probably try to sell you on a whole course, and you can decide from there if it's worth it. But you are going to get something out of that hour from that live stream of someone who has made it as a professional writer and who is willing to share their time and their energy with you to tell you how you can do it. Now, you're not going to walk away from that course suddenly being Shakespeare, but you are going to walk away with a few tips and tricks on how to be a better writer. Number 2, the number 2 thing you can do to improve your writing is to read. Read books on writing, but also just read. Guys, when you see it on paper, it goes into your brain and it truly does help you become a better writer. So read fiction, read nonfiction, read books about writing, like I said, read self-help books. I've done a whole podcast on marketing books. You could go read those as well. And just really let that information and the way they structure sentences and the way they clip you in and the way that they inform you and unfold the story, let all of that soak in. And let yourself not be afraid to take inspiration from that and learn something valuable from it. The third thing you can do is practice. Now, get ready. I'm going to be a broken record this whole podcast because almost every single skill can be improved upon with practice. But there are specific things you can do with the practicing of writing that will help improve your writing skills. So number one, on your personal Instagram and on your personal Twitter, send out more and more tweets, more and more captions on your post. It's just your friends and your family on there. You're not trying to be an Instagram influencer with this account. It's your testing account. Have fun with it. Try things out and test and experiment. This way you'll get more casual about posting on Instagram and on Twitter, and you'll feel a little bit more comfortable hitting that post button when it comes to your actual business account. Number two, when it is time to write on your personal business account, I want you to write out the options for yourself 24 hours before posting. So give yourself 2 or 3 different caption ideas that you think might work with the photo you are planning to post that day, and then give yourself 24 hours to think about it. Maybe don't think about it and then come back with fresh eyes and edit those. That way you are able to get a little bit of perspective, or if you did think about it during that time, maybe you brainstormed an even better idea. But do not try to write the caption the day of or the minute of. That is going to leave you feeling flustered and overwhelmed. So write it 24 hours before. This way you have a little bit of clarity and a little bit more time to work on it. The third thing you can do is to make sure you test and then study those results of your test. Try testing out different ideas, like when you write a longer caption, how does your audience respond? When you ask a question, does your audience answer? This way you're able to test and manage and understand your audience and how you should be writing a little bit better. Okay, everyone, we are going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, we have even more marketing content skills for you to work on. So stay tuned for more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I will be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you again. Black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. Before we jump in, I just want to ask you, how are you doing? How are you holding up during these long, hard quarantine days? Because let's face it, they are hard and they are long, and we do need a little bit more inspiration and a little bit more creativity in our lives to really help us move forward, because I can tell you it gets very hard looking at the same 4 walls every single day, and then having to be creative at work can sometimes be a struggle. And something that helps me get those creative juices flowing is by listening to content that inspires me. And nothing inspires me more than the GSMC Podcast Network. We have podcasts on, oh my goodness, we have podcasts on everything, you guys. Books, movies, TV, social media, wrestling. We have podcasts on almost every subject you could ever even think of. So if you have an interest, if you have a hobby, if you have something you want to learn more about, then go check out the GSMC Podcast Network and all of the amazing content they have. Yes, this podcast is a part of that network. So yes, I am a little bit biased, but I can tell you, I was a listener of and a fan of the GSMC Podcast Network long before I ever worked for them. And it's something that I still continue to listen to today. One of my favorite new podcasts is actually the Beauty Podcast, which has a brand new host, and her name is Betsy. And I've just been loving it. I am so excited to hear more of her content. So if you haven't heard that already and you're looking for some beauty tips, head on over there and check her out. And then let me know what you think of her podcast. Okay, everyone, so on today's episode, we are talking about some marketing skills that are going to help you boost and elevate your content creation. I said before the break that it can be very daunting to want to create content on your own because as marketers, and I'm sure a lot of you are maybe running your own business, it is so easy to brainstorm these wonderfully creative, amazingly captivating marketing campaigns and then suddenly get scared when it's time to create them. You get scared when it's time to write the caption. You get scared when it's time to take the photo or make the video. And because of that fear, I think it comes from a lack of knowledge in those skills. You aren't able to hire a professional photographer, videographer, or writer, or graphic designer, and you know that your skills in those fields aren't up to the level that you want them to be at for that campaign. So what we're doing on today's episode is I believe that there are 3 skills that if you work on them enough, you practice them enough, and you do all the other things I'm suggesting, it will truly, truly elevate your content creation. So the first skill, and I'm going to say it is the most important, is your writing. And it's also one of the easiest ones to fix and work on. So I suggest you look for courses, you read books, and you really practice your writing skills. Now that we are back from the break, we are going to talk about the second most important skill I think you should work on for your content creation, and that is photography. Now, I am a professional photographer. I taught photography for years, and I worked a wedding circuit, and I was a freelance photographer, and I've done photography my entire career, and I absolutely love it. And the reason it's number 2 on the list is because it is so incredibly important. It is definitely second to writing, and it is above a lot of the other skills that you might want to learn. But the reason it is also number 2 is because it is so incredibly easy to get better at, especially nowadays where our phones are just as good as a professional camera. So I know that you'll be able to improve your skills in a meaningful way with photography. Because truly, we're going to get into it, but the most important thing you can do when it comes to photography and your photography skills is practice and work on them. But the number 1 thing you should actually do is we have a podcast episode about photography and at-home photo shoots. So if you haven't listened to that episode, again, we have this is episode 83. We have a ton of episodes, though we do have 2 or 1 podcasts that were solely devoted to just talking about photography and at-home photo shoots, where I explain to you the do's and don'ts. We talk about equipment you might want to buy and just sort of the realm of possibilities you have of doing an at-home photo shoot with yourself. So I encourage you, go check out that podcast. I give some very helpful tips and tricks that I really do think will help elevate your photography skills and hopefully your photo shoots. But hey, you know what? I'm not biased. There are plenty of other podcasts that can also help you with your photo shoot skills. One of them in particular is the Content Creatives podcast. They are 2 influencers who are located here in Seattle. I absolutely love the podcast. I am obsessed with the podcast, actually. And they did a fantastic episode where they talked about at-home photo shoots. They gave me some ideas, and yeah, go listen to that podcast as well. But also just search Apple Podcasts for podcasts about photo shoots, because I guarantee you will find some excellent content. And it's really great listening to a podcast for that, or a video as well on YouTube, because hearing the instructions or seeing the instructions gives you a different level and a different feel than just simply reading it in a book or in an instruction manual. The second thing you can do is hop onto Pinterest. That's right, I am giving you full permission to use Pinterest here and get some inspiration. Now to start, I want you to copy exactly how your inspiration photo looks. The feel of it, the pose of it, the brightness level, the colors that they use. I want you to copy it exact. I want them to be mirror images of each other. But don't post it because that does tread a little bit on copyright and stealing someone's content and all that. This is strictly for practice purposes. However, once you get a little bit more comfortable behind or in front of the camera, you can start experimenting and use that inspiration more as a guidepost rather than a lifeline. So hop onto Pinterest, type in, honestly guys, the best word to type in into Pinterest for photography ideas is not photography ideas. Do not type that. You're going to get a lot of very boring content of people just posing really weird. No, type in inspo, not inspiration. Just type in inspo. You're going to get so many photos of women doing these insane photo shoots by themselves and men too, and just flowers and other inspirational photography ideas that you never thought you would even think of. And they are so good and so helpful in improving your photography skills. Number 3, I already did spoil the ending a little bit, but the most important thing you can do while improving your photography skills is practice, 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 practice. It really does make perfect. Guys, I was a wedding photographer for like 2 years, and then I taught photography. And it wasn't until I was done teaching photography and I had so much practice just working with students and working with them through problems that I took a look at my photos and I was like, I genuinely love these. I want to have these on my wall. I want to sell these. And I started selling them and making money from that as well. And it wasn't until years and years of practice that I felt comfortable at a level to call myself a professional photographer, because practice really does make the picture perfect. So my suggestion, and this was my suggestion to my students as well, is to start with an object that does not move. Start it with a martini glass. I'm looking at my water martini glass right now. Start it with your laptop. Start it with an apple with a bowl of fruit. And just take as many photos as you can of that apple, that bowl of fruit, that martini glass, until you find one you genuinely like. Even though it's just a photo of an apple, find your favorite photo of that apple. And then I want you to move on to your pet, or a neighbor's pet, or just any pets you see on the street. Anything that moves, basically, is next. This way you get the idea of filming action and movement a little bit more, and it's with something that actually has emotions and can emote. But it's not something who's going to pick apart your photos. Then I want you to move onto a personal photo shoot with either yourself or a friend, and then get the friend to give you feedback. This is important because up until now, you've just been trusting yourself and your own feedback. Once you get someone else's opinion in there, it is totally going to change the game. Okay, everyone, we are going to go ahead and take a short break from the podcast, but when we come back, we are going to talk more about the third and the final skill that you need to work on to elevate your personal marketing content. So stay tuned for more of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and how is everyone doing tonight? It is a Monday, maybe evening, maybe you're starting your day with your podcast. If you're starting, ending, middle of the day work slump, whatever it may be, I just want to go ahead and thank you for listening. It is truly a dream job for me to get to talk about marketing on this podcast, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy creating it, because I truly do see this as a place where we get to come create and have a good time. And because of that, I want to know that you are also having a good time. And the best way for me to know that, the only way for me to know that actually, is for you to rate, review this podcast, and make sure you are subscribed. So please, if you're not, please go ahead, hit that little button. And then also, if you're interested, connect with us on social media. I have personal social media accounts. You can find me at Mackenzie_Jaquish, MACKENZIE, JAQUISH on Instagram, and Mac Jaquish on Twitter. And then also follow the GSMC Marketing Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. We have all the channels. We have all the content. And over there is truly where the conversation gets to continue. So if you haven't checked us out online, do so right now or after you are done listening to this podcast episode, so that you can let me know your thoughts on the content we talked about today. On today's podcast, we have been talking about certain skills that you need to work on or develop that will heighten your marketing content. So what are we talking about when we say that? Well, marketing content, if you're new to the podcast, is my favorite part of marketing. It is truly the candy, the bread and butter. We can come up with marketing strategies. We can talk about our audience. We can talk about our product. But at the end of the day, the thing that sells all of it is the content that we create to sell all of it. And for me, that is the best part of the job. I love content creation. I absolutely love brainstorming and then working and then seeing the idea come to fruition. And so for me, it was really important from the beginning of my marketing journey to hone in on a few key skills. And then it's something that I realize a lot of marketers just assume that they're going to have a team that is able to supply those, that they'll be able to go, okay, I need you to design this, I need you to write this, and I need you to take a photo of that or make a video of this. And hey, guess what? Some very, very big companies do have teams that are that large. I've worked for companies that are that large, and it's amazing. It's incredible. I currently work for a company that has a team like that, and it's great to get to go, hey, can you take a photo of this? Hey, can you make a video of that? But if you're not in that situation, that does not mean you got the short end of the stick here. You can still totally create just as amazing content by yourself if you work on 3 key skills. Number 1 was writing. And there are some solid ways for you to work on your writing that are completely free. You could take an online course that are completely free. There are workshops available all the time through Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Read books, even if they're not books about writing. Again, I did a podcast episode where I suggested different books on marketing. Go read one of those, because even just reading a fiction book, even reading Harry Potter, will help improve your writing. And number 3 was to practice. And guys, I am going to sound like a broken record on today's episode, because practice, it really does make perfect, and it really is going to be the thing that improves your overall marketing. So if you don't believe me, test yourself for 2 weeks and then see the difference that'll make if you practice every single night. Number 2, the second skill was photography, which included listening to podcasts or watching instructional videos, going onto Pinterest for inspiration, and then doing your own photo shoots, both with objects, pets, and then actual people. Now that we are back, we have our third and our final skill. So please drum roll at the ready, because it is graphic design. Now everyone calm down. I am not suggesting that I am about to drop 3 simple tips that are going to help you become a graphic designer. People take years and years to study that art, and they do with writing and photography as well. I'm not trying to downplay that. But graphic design really is something that is focused on in school, and that you do need certain programs and a design eye and all these other very hard to come by skills, or hard to work on and hard to achieve skills that I can't just suggest you take a free course online to gain. But there are some things someone who does not have a graphic design skill, someone who does not have access to Photoshop or Lightroom, there are still things and courses you can take that will help you improve your graphic design skills so that you can at least throw together an email campaign and have it look the way you want it to. So number one, I already kind of said it, but courses. There are free courses you can take online that will guide you through the basic principles of how to put together a fancy-dancy email marketing campaign, an Instagram post, an infographic, or just anything you've ever wanted to know that are so simple. A poster, a postcard, an invite. Very simple, very easy to do stuff. Number two, a one-on-one instructor can really help. Now, this is the only thing that I'm suggesting that actually costs money, so please forgive me. But with a graphic design route, you really do need a one-on-one instructor there to be like, hey, that's not a good idea. Hey, you're improving. Hey, you're not improving. Here's what we can do. Just someone to remind you that you're doing well, or someone to help guide you on the proper path. The third and final thing you can do is use websites that give you templates and give you ideas and instructions on how to be a better graphic designer. I love Canva, but PicMonkey is also fantastic at being a really great guiding force and helping you create things that maybe do look a little generic, but it's better than doing nothing at all. And from there, you can start to build up. And really, guys, with all of these skills, that is what I'm wanting you to do. I want you to create a baseline of knowledge so that you are able to create your own content and your own ideas and execute your own marketing strategies without having to rely on hiring someone or another teammate or just having to give up altogether. That's not what I want. I don't want you to have to say, oh, I loved this idea, but right now I just don't have the resources. That's not good for you. That's not good for your company, and it's not good for anyone in the marketing world. We need to learn how to make our own content. That is the way the world is heading here. So I truly believe if you work on your writing skills, if you work on your photography skills, and you work on those graphic design skills, you can become a triple threat, create your own content, and totally elevate your advertising strategies. Okay, everyone, that is it for tonight's episode of the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Before you leave, do me the biggest favor and subscribing to the podcast. Please, it means the world to me. It helps me out so much in the long run, and it would just be great to know who is listening. So I will see you next time with more marketing strategies and advertising campaigns. If you have a suggestion of something you'd like me to talk about in the future, please do not be shy and reach out through social media. I'm Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app, and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.